It is March 17th, 2020. It is St. Patty's Day. This is Bill Apter down here from Apter O'Alley's East. And who have we got at Apter's O'Alley South?
You got Matt O'Mac right down here in the south.
Yeah, welcome. And uh, if you're in some way, shape, or form in these very new normal days, the new normal days celebrating St. Patrick's Day, um, at home or wherever you might be, we want to wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day. So may the luck of the
Have-
Irish be with all of us. So Mac, it's been quite a time in the world in general. It has affected, of course, everyone in the world. This horrible coronavirus, and it was a matter of time before it has struck in the worst way at in the pro wrestling world. Now,
It's Bill.
right before we came on the
I'm
air,
sorry. Go ahead.
that's all right. Right before we came on the air, I got a press release from Mark Crooksall, the public relations man for Ring of Honor Wrestling, and Ring of Honor has suspended all their shows. Um, I believe it is through May, through the end of May. So, whew, tell us what
I was
you're
going to
thinking
mention
there.
that I've heard a couple of things. One piece of good news that I did hear just before we went to air, WrestleCon, which was on the hook for a lot of money because
Yes.
of the cancellation of WrestleMania, basically in Tampa. They stood to lose a lot of money. Luckily, the Marriott that they were working with at the time is working with them now, so they're not going to take
Oh,
the
that's
hit that they
great.
were going to take.
Yeah, I had spoken to Michael, the man who created High Spots, and he had told me last week that if this is canceled, he's going to lose his shirt, his pants, his shoes, and his house and everything. But there was a lot of social media going around how rotten the Marriott chain was to hold him up and make him responsible for the monies where WrestleCon was going to take place, and now they've lightened the load, from what I understand.
And I think a lot of their other vendors have done the same thing, Bill. And I don't think they all have at this point, but I think they're probably working on it. It's an unfortunate situation for everybody involved, from the fans all the way to the wrestlers, the vendors, the hotels, the restaurants. The amount of people who are affected by the coronavirus, just in our world of professional wrestling, especially this time, they're taking a real hit.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, we look to hopefully get out of this fairly quickly so we can get back to work and doing what we do.
Well, we don't know how long this is actually going to take, and there might be a lot of independent companies that may not survive this. So we want to let you know that our thoughts and love uh, are all with you. So let's hit some of the news here. The big news, of course, was the cancellation of WrestleMania in Tampa at Raymond James Stadium, and the announcement. And I'm glad that happened, by the way. And the announcement that WrestleMania will take place at the WWE Performance Center. Now, there are a lot of fans who are still against this. Um, I've got a piece of hair that's driving me crazy under my nose here. I don't know what's going on. So if you see me doing
I,
that, I will sanitize. So
I was going to mention, Bill, that I saw a piece of news. We haven't had a chance. We really, for anybody watching this right now, we're discussing this live
yeah,
with one another.
yes,
We're going to discuss on the show.
yeah.
But I did see a report that WrestleMania may not be at the Performance Center and yet may be held back until June to run at Madison Square Garden.
Well, that we don't know at this point. I think the biggest hit for WrestleMania in terms of athletic performance will be, and we've seen two different nights of what it would look like in the performance center. I thought the SmackDown matches in the performance center, I personally thought a lot of that stuff worked out really well. There are fans who think I'm crazy. Monday Night Raw, they decided to go with the first hour with the Royal Rumble. They needed to eat up some time, but they did have the live match between Andrade, I said it right, and Rey Mysterio Jr., which looked really good. You know, back in the day when I was covering the matches, a lot of times I would be going to gyms where the wrestlers worked out or the fighters worked out, because we also did boxing magazines. And it felt so special to me to be like a fly on the wall there. And that's what the performance center looked to me. But I think the biggest hit that they're going to take, if they do it at the performance center, is that it's got to be so tight and so perfect. It's got to be something special, because the way the government is talking, we may still have this ugly thing going on, this ugly coronavirus, even in June. So, what do you think?
I believe that we are going to. I don't think we're going to see it at the Performance Center. I think that I think it makes more sense to hold it back or blend it into maybe a different pay per view. Remove one of the lesser known pay per views. Throw in WrestleMania somewhere down the line. The biggest problem, though, Bill, is going to be storylines. You build to a storyline for WrestleMania, so you can't just hold back WrestleMania too long because you want your storyline. You want that payoff, and you got to move on with your next story.
Sure,
And that's going to be a
sure.
problem with creative. I mean, they've got enough issues with creative. This is going to be a bigger issue for them.
Well, also, let's take the other big company that everyone talks about, AEW, is also, now we're taping this the night before AEW, but they're also going to take a hit in terms of the performance, just like WrestleMania will, because a large part of who they are is the wonderful fan involvement that they have. And I don't know, to have WrestleMania, just going back to that, at the Performance Center will be great for people who can't go out and can't do things, and that's all of us here. But holding it back to do it at Madison Square Garden, I think would be a great idea, but it also might be a gamble. Getting people that close together in an arena, I don't know how they're going to do that. I really don't. So,
I'd
uh,
like to know. I'd really like to know, but I'm curious what kind of money is on the line for WrestleMania, dollars and cents to the area of Tampa Bay alone. That they're going to lose a lot
oh,
of money,
I
not
hate to
just
say, I hate to say they're going to take a bath on this, but they are. But they're doing, again, this is a this is a worldwide crisis, and this has to happen, because if you really look at it, our genre, like the entertainment genre, the movie genre, and all that, we're little pimples on this little world that has so many moving parts. It's the health of all of us and staying alive that's so very important. Um, so Madison
Let
Square
me ask you,
Garden,
Bill. You Are you concerned about promotions that are still running shows right now?
absolutely, absolutely. I think there are.
I'm really surprised that we still see that taking place, and people haven't called off certain events. When you
Wait a minute,
hear,
wait a minute,
different
wait a minute.
numbers going
You're
around,
talking about that? You're talking about that? You know what really gets me? When I'm watching the news, they're saying no more, no people, no more than 10 people in gatherings, right?
right?
What the hell is going on in the stock market in New York? When they show the stock market, there's 5,000 stockbrokers down there with their papers. And so, come on, if it's going to, you know what I'm saying? So, everybody's got to follow the rules, not just people in our business. So if
I,
you are if
right.
you are Vince McMahon right now, you know I've known Vince since the 70s. If you are Vince McMahon right now, and they said, listen, we have to make a decision for WrestleMania, at this point. Whether or not we're going to do it at the Performance Center, it just might not work. What would you do, Mr. McMahon?
It depends on which Vince McMahon you're asking me about, because there's the Vince McMahon before they went public and there's the Vince McMahon after they went public.
Current.
When before they went public, Vince McMahon would do whatever was best for the wrestlers and for the company.
Right.
Now he has to do what's best by the stockbroker. I mean, by the
Right.
stocks
Right.
and by everybody that's involved. He's got to answer to them. And so I think that he would try to find a way to pause it long enough to figure out what to do to lose the least amount of money.
What do you expect will happen with, and again, we're taping this the day before AEW Dynamite. What do you think is going to happen WWE is going to survive. They've got these billions and zillions of dollars. What AEW has got big, big bucks. They've got an incredible show. They are, uh, they're in this for the long haul. They've got their 3 years on TNT. What do you think is going to happen if they go to the non-audience show, which we've heard that they probably will?
I believe, Bill, that we're going to see, or we should see, AEW approach their programs now to educate us more about the talents that we haven't learned everything about. This is a great opportunity to really go deep into the characters of the program of AEW's Dynamite. I believe that there's a way to produce a show, and they've got the talent because they do podcasts and web video cams, all kinds of things all the time on YouTube. So they have throwing something together. But I think you can further your storylines and even educate about talent that's just bubbling under during this time. I don't think anybody expects to see a lot of wrestling in the ring, because I think you kind of alluded to this earlier. It kind of loses the excitement feel after maybe one or two matches. You're still sitting in a room with nobody there, and people performing in more than having a reactionary match based on the crowd and the response. That's difficult for a wrestler to do, because a lot of times you listen to the crowd to carry the
Sure,
match. Where do
sure,
you go
sure.
next? Well, it depends on the crowd.
Well, that's
You
why.
don't have that when
Yeah,
you have the camera sitting on you.
but that's why when I saw Andrade and Rey Mysterio, there was no crowd sitting. The only annoying thing was, and I love Asuka. I love her character, but she was so annoying to me on commentary there. But in the long run, do you think um, wrestling, sports entertainment, in the next few months, if they can only do this in studio wrestling, do you think WWE's ratings will go up? Because SmackDown went up. It was charming, but Raw was totally different than SmackDown.
I believe the numbers we saw on Friday night were curiosity, because nobody knew what to expect. I don't think that's a real number, so we have to be careful about thinking that may have been considered a great show, and that number may have been much lower, or will be much lower, maybe this Friday night. We did speak about this once today. One of the few things we did discuss.
Yeah.
Monday night really didn't do it for me too much, and I'll tell you why. I understand the situation that they're in, but as just a viewer, and I've always tried to look at myself when I watch these programs as a viewer, a fan. That's it. And when they went into the Royal Rumble, I knew I'd seen it, so I turned off my TV. I didn't have a reason to watch it because I've watched that entire thing already, on the network. And the only other things that were coming up were, a couple of promos, the
Yeah,
Undertaker, and then
but
also Stone Cold.
Mac, think of the fan. Think of the fan that doesn't buy the network, doesn't buy the pay-per-views. They got a great free show last Monday night.
They did, but what about the people who have seen it? What did they do?
I watched it again because I found things that I didn't see the first time. I watched it again.
Now,
What?
I'll say this. Of all the matches they could have picked, that was the one to do,
Oh,
because that was a
sure.
fantastic Royal Rumble.
That really was. The other thing I want to talk about before we go, we're almost out of time here, is I was amazed by the Stone Cold, the Skull Broken Skull sessions. the interview that he did, and it's on the WWE Network with, I've got to do my imitation, with the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. It was an incredible, incredible interview. Did you get a chance to watch it yet?
I did. That was you had asked me about that early today, and
Yeah.
I went back to watch. I got through about 30 minutes of it.
Did
Haven't
you love
finished
it?
yet,
Did you
but
love it?
you're right. I did hear about the Montreal screw job and how Brett described that. I'm not sure that we've heard exactly that blunt of a story
We
about
haven't.
that whole.
No, we haven't. So I urge you fans to go to the WWE Network and check out the Stone Cold Steve Austin interview show and the interview with Bret Hart. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, he talked about some stuff, and I pretty much know my stuff about the Montreal screw job, but there are a lot of things in that particular show and that interview that I never heard before. When he sat back and he and Stone Cold got relaxed. The other thing I want to mention about this is 20 years ago, if you would have talked to wrestlers about this type of subject, and just brought out everything, how the matches worked and all that, 20, 25 years ago, somebody might have broken your legs. Everything's out on the,
That's true.
everything's out on the table now. And in some ways I love it, and in some ways I hate it. Some ways I don't want to know it. So, all right, Mac.
I love hearing those stories. But, it's just like stories, and you hear about the people who the car rides between shows. Those are great stories, and I'm glad we get to hear those. But like you, at the same time, it's kind of breaking kayfabe, and that kind of it's hard to take.
Yeah, speaking about breaking kayfabe, Lita and I forgot off the top of my head who the other two wrestlers are. They're working on a show called Breaking Kayfabe, just called Kayfabe rather. We'll have
Uh,
more details when I can remember this thing.
yeah.
I've got phones ringing
I think
upstairs and
Christy
it's
Hemme was one of
distracting.
the girls.
Yes, 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 yes. All right, Mac, where can people follow you on social media? Social media.
Gail Kim's
Gail Kim, right?
those
Yes,
hit me.
yes, you got it.
You can find me on social media at Mad Mac Davis. And Bill, as always, I enjoyed this. Look forward to doing it again. There's a lot to talk about, and I'm sure by next week there's going to be plenty more.
Well, we might do it twice this week. Let's see what happens on AEW Dynamite. We might have another meeting coming up. So this would be great. Thank you, fans, for watching us here on the After Chat. www.onewrestlingvideo.com is where all our interviews are stored. And Mac, is wrestling fixed?
I didn't know it was broken
Damn. We'll see you
at the matches.